All right, well, thank you guys for coming out. It's been an exciting off season. It's been a very productive off season. Last year was you sat here about a year ago today, and the one thing I really conveyed is it felt like year number one. And last year at this time we had 15 guys on our roster, only 5 returners, and we had 10 newly eligible players, including Matt Mooney, Carlton Hurst, and Trey Dickerson that all had a red shirt, and then we had 7 brand new guys. And now it's the polar opposite, quite frankly. We lose 2 good players. Tyler Flack really came into his own and played like a senior, like you expect a very talented senior to play, and ended up being a first-team all-league guy and really anchored our defense. And the good and the bad, we lose Tyler and a lot of experience. But the good part within that is Tyler missed 9 games last year. So a lot of other guys had an opportunity to step up. And the silver lining, I think, was Tyler Hagedorn really coming on in conference play that year, or the second half of the year. And then Trey Dickerson, of course, graduated and transferred out to Georgetown. So we lost 36% of our offense. And so we're going to have to find a way to replace that. But I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Last year was an outstanding season. Preseason picked 7th, 8th, or 9th, depending on what poll you looked at. And we didn't really know exactly what we were going to get. And now this year, I think we have a pretty good feel of who can do what. The guys certainly are very acclimated to our terminology and our system and our style of play. And every year is a little bit different. You're going to tweak some things and add some things schematically on both sides of the floor. And certainly we're going to do that. But, we really got hot. We lost to Omaha, I think it was February 1st last year, and then finished the season really on a hot streak, going on the road, finishing on the road with 4 of our last 6, and winning the conference title outright was a great accomplishment for last year's team. Certainly it was a bittersweet moment at the end of the year, losing in the conference tournament by 1. But it was a great experience. When we played in the NIT game against Iowa, it was it was a great game. We certainly gave ourselves a fantastic chance to win that game. And our guys were really disappointed, dejected, down, because we fully expected to win that game. Whereas in November when we played Nebraska and December playing Gonzaga, I think we really wanted to win. I'm not sure we expected to win. And if you watch the Nebraska game, we were down 27-6 to start and couldn't pass, dribble, or shoot, or defend, or do anything. And so we came a long, long way, and now we got to build on that. And we couldn't be more excited with the men that we have in our program. Certainly, returning guys. Matt Mooney started every game, was a first-team all-league guy, was 3rd in the league in scoring, really came around the last 2/3, I would say, part of league play, really started finding his groove, and our guys started figuring out how to do some things to help him out, obviously, which helps our team out. Trey Birch Manning was on the all-newcomer team last year, preseason all-league guy, just kind of a Mr. Do-everything kind of guy, was one of the top rebounders in the Summer League at over 7 a game. Carlton Hurst, arguably the best defensive player in the league, started every game as well as Trey Birch Manning. So we return a very good nucleus that way. Tristan Simpson, as a freshman, not your typical freshman, played 23 minutes a game. He led the league in assist-to-turnover ratio. You know what you're going to get every night with him, and he's a guy that just really knows how to play and has certainly improved over the offseason. Tyler Hagedorn has made tremendous strides. He's really become the type of player that can affect the game in a lot of different ways. He's not just one-dimensional anymore, and he's had a great offseason. Tyler Peterson, obviously, kind of in the same boat as Tristan in terms of playing right around 20 minutes a game as a true freshman. So, last year we were one of the youngest teams in the country, and out of 351 Division I teams in the country, Ken Palm has a minutes continuity stat, and we were 350, 347, right in that category for a long, long time. And now this year will be the opposite. We'll have a very experienced team, even though we're still relatively young, and our minutes continuity will be very good because these guys have really experienced big moments together. And so You could go right down the line of our whole roster, and we've had a great offseason, a great summer, and literally every guy in our program has gotten better. And that's what you expect when you return this many guys. So excited about our schedule. Certainly the highlight of it is Duke and UCLA, and TCU's picked to be top 3 in the Big 12. And so we've talked a lot about that. I'm not going to belabor that point, but truly you play those games because it's an experience of a lifetime for your guys. You expect to go in there and find a way to win. There's a way to win every game that you play. And I know that'll be our guys' mentality, but those games will make you better. Last year we played Gonzaga and we lose by around 40. And that game made us better. That was a piece of humble pie. If we want to go where we think we can go, right? Those are the games that you got to compete in. And obviously they went on to play in the national championship game, but there's no doubt that game made us better, and that's why you schedule those kind of games. And I think it's exciting for our fan base as well, for our fans to get out there and watch us play Duke and UCLA, and the response has been tremendous from that respect. Certainly the SCSC, what an amazing place. You guys have always experienced that. Our administration has done a phenomenal job with the whole building. You know, a lot of times you build a building and I wish you would have did this and I wish you would have did that. And quite frankly, there's not a whole lot of things that we wish we would have did otherwise. And so we saw the spirit and atmosphere in there last year. Certainly for our team, going 13-1 at home, it was a tremendous home court advantage. Our guys played with a ton of confidence at home. Our women's team, I believe, lost just one game. I believe, and our volleyball team lost one game at home last year. So certainly it's been a tremendous venue for USD as a whole. And so, we got to continue to grow that and keep our spirit and atmosphere going that way. Summit League's a heck of a league. It's a very underrated league. Last year, in terms of RPI, our league was ranked 18, and the year before that, 12. It's a highly, highly prolific offensive conference. Our league is in the top, led the country out of 32 conferences, led the country in 6 offensive statistical categories. Jeremy, I'll get those to you later. Our league had five of the 9 teams last year were in the top 50 in three-pointers made per game and three-point field goal percentage. 5 teams in our conference made over 9 threes a game, and 5 teams in our conference shot it at 39% or higher, which is a fantastic number. And so every night out, you're just like kind of holding your breath like, oh boy, what's going to happen tonight? And, I'm a history major, and history shows in the Summit League, you can be as high octane as you want, but at the end of the day, the last 6 years, including last year, the number 1 defensive team has won the league. And fortunately for us, depending on how you look at it, we held teams to the lowest points per game, and we were number 2 in defensive field goal percentage. We were also number 2 in assists to turnovers. And so, and then the number 3 offensive rebounding team. And to us, that's the formula for winning championships. You got to defend, you got to rebound, and then you got to value the ball. And by valuing the ball, you got to take great shots, and you can't turn it over. And I think that's one thing we've done pretty well since we've been here. And so we got to build on last year. There's a lot of room to grow from last year to this year, and certainly we have a long way to go within this year's team. We'll be a different team just like any other year. We have 4 new guys to our program. Nick Fuller is a grad transfer from the University of Nebraska. Nick and I coached him his redshirt freshman year at Nebraska. And Nick is just, he's a warrior type. He's a Gator type. He's a very versatile guy. He can play the 3 or the 4 or even the 5 at times if we ask him to. And, it's always interesting when you recruit a grad transfer, because what's their motive? Like, what do they want out of this year? And it could be a lot of different things. And certainly had a great relationship with Nick. And I wasn't going to lead him astray in terms of what he's getting into. And when we were recruiting him, I said, Nick, what's important to you? And he's like, Coach, I want to play in a winner. I want to play where we feel like we have a chance to make the NCAA tournament. I want to play in a place where it fits our, where I can fit in their style of play. And so if that means I'm coming off the bench or I'm starting or whatever role I trust you that you ask me to do, I'm going to do whatever it takes to help the team win. And that's refreshing to hear. And I wouldn't expect anything else out of Nick. And certainly Nick's going to have an impact on our program in a very positive way, both on and off the floor. He was also a 3-time all Big Ten academic person as well. So, and then we have 3 true freshmen. Stanley Amude, who is he's like the old cartoon character, like Plastic Man. You guys are way too young in the back. You don't even know what I'm talking about. It was on at 7 a.m. in the morning when I was a kid, right before the superheroes. And so he's as long gets. He's kind of like a baby giraffe, too. Like he's all legs and arms and not a lot of torso there. But Stanley's he's very, very talented. He's kind of like a triple-double guy, like a Scottie Pippen type. Now, I'm not saying he's Scottie Pippen, so let's not get carried away. But that's how he plays. He's a guy that can score it, really rebound it. He can pass, really affects the game with his length. He's a great shot blocker. But he's also a typical freshman, right? He's good days, he's got not so good days. Thought he had a great week last week, and then he got sick this week on Monday, and he was just okay yesterday. So there's those ups and downs. Walter Prevost. Walter's a 6'8", 6'9", 5-man who came in here very raw, came in at a paltry 216 pounds, and we weigh our guys every day after practice or after weights, and he's up to 242 now. So he certainly put the time in the weight room. Our nutrition people have done a great job with him, teaching him what to eat, what not to eat, and the benefits of it. And he's starting to make some strides that way. And then Josh Williams walked on for us, and he's really come on the last week. Josh is kind of a combo guard, but he's a scorer. Like, he just frustrates our top guys at times because we can play great defense for 25 seconds, and then he gets the ball, and he's just going to go jay you up. Like, he can make it from deep and has a good feel for the game that way. So those 3 freshmen are freshmen, and those guys that have been in the program before certainly have experience on those guys, but those are guys that we expect to make a major impact on our program. So with that, do you guys have any questions?
Craig, is complacency, is that a genuine threat to this season? Is that something that you're going to work on with these kids?
Well, you're always, stoking the fire, so to speak. But I think as a whole, we have a driven group of guys. And if you have, we did have the conversation, though, the other day, quite frankly, after a practice that wasn't so good. And we haven't had we've had very good practices all in all. But for every 100 men that can handle failure, only 1 can handle success. And I truly believe that. And that's the thing you always do have to guard against is complacency, sense of entitlement, where you feel like you've climbed the mountain. How many times has a heavyweight boxing champion earned the title? And Jeremy loves when I pull out the boxing analogies, so does Barry. And then all of a sudden, how long can they, stay on top of the mountain, so to speak? And I'll tell you, if we're not driven by the way some things ended last year, then I don't know what's going to drive you. And our guys have made that very, very clear that we have bigger fish to fry and we have higher expectations. And so, but the reality of it is, you always got to guard against that stuff. But you got to do that through motivation, through changing the stimulus to help that out. And I think above all that is recruiting the right types of guys in your program. And when you can coach your quote unquote best player really, really hard, and when you can coach like this year we have 17 guys, your 17th best player really, really hard, generally speaking, everybody else falls right in the line. And I always say, we like to share different stories with our guys, and I won't bore you with a bunch of them, but one of them was the first time I went and watched the San Antonio Spurs practice. And I may have shared this with some of you guys before, but I got there an hour and 15 minutes early, and there was one guy in the gym. They had a 10 a.m. practice. I was there at 8:45. One guy in the gym, and it was Tim Duncan. And about 30 minutes later, Ginobili comes walking in, and like 4 minutes after that, it's Tony Parker, and shortly after that, it's Kawhi Leonard. And it's like, no wonder San Antonio has been a mainstay at the top. And every year, you can peg them. They're going to be they're a threat to win the championship. And certainly when you have probably a top 10 player of all time as the first guy in your gym, at least an hour and 15 minutes ahead of time, everybody falls into line. And I think we have a pretty good locker room from that respect.
Great mental toughness is so important, and for you to not lose back-to-back games from early December on the rest of the regular season last year proves you had it last year. Is this group capable of that as well? That's
a great point, and that's one of the things I was when people say, what were you most proud of last year? That would be right at the top of the list. And I was just talking to one of our administrators the other day about that. Last year, I think we lost back-to-back games twice, I believe. One in Florida to Houston and to, what's the New York school? Hofstra. And we lost UMKC in Nebraska. And in a league play, we never lost back-to-back. And that's a pretty big accomplishment. That shows you something, because we had a couple disappointing losses in there, and then you had to follow it up and play a very good team. And we found a way to win a lot of close games down the stretch, which does show the mental fortitude, and the ability to eliminate losing is an amazing thing. And like I said, we were really good in not turning it over, and we created turnovers. Another key stat is, at the end of the regular season, we were, I believe, 7th in the country in free throws attempted. And so when you can constantly get to the foul line, and I think that's a combination of our style of play and the players that we do have and how we recruit, when you can do that, you generally don't have a bunch of empty possessions just adding up over and over and over and over again. And so, and then certainly, like you just said, in league play, we didn't play with Tyler Flack for 7 of those games, and that was a big, big loss. So for us to be able to sustain that and hold our ground, and I think we were 4-3 when he came back, something like that, maybe 5-4, whatever it was, and then to be able to finish with a flourish like we did in February and then in early March, I think says a lot about the character of our guys.
And then the schedule's similar this year, where you front load your home games in the conference. And you just talk about winning those 4 road games last year before the end of the season. You got 5 out of your last 7 on the road this year.
Yeah, and it takes you really have to be disciplined and sound to win on the road. Like, right, your margin for error is very, very slim, and you have to be able to get fouled. You have to be able to defend. And like I said earlier, we're depending on the stats, you're looking at 1 or 2 in almost every defensive category, and so defense travels, right? Discipline travels. And I think we ended up 8-9 on the road. And I think that's something, even looking back, not so much the second year, but year 1, we were a very, very good road team. And in years prior to that, we've always been a good, years prior to that when I was a small school head coach, that's something that we really emphasize, we talk a lot about. And it's a road warrior mentality. And if you have anything less than that, then you're probably going to end up on the wrong side of the stick.
What's going to be the difference being the HUD this year compared to
Yeah, that's been brought up a lot. And to me, that's just all mindset. I mean, we talk to our guys a lot about pressure is a privilege. But pressure is what you make out of it, and I don't know that you prepare any different. Front runners prepare differently, right? When it's all a mindset. It's all about how you approach things. It's all about your attitude. The old cliche, the 2 things you can control every day is your attitude and your effort. And you can say it's cliche all you want, but it's the truth in any walk of life, right? And it's all about your perspective on things. So I don't view us as the hunted, because we've never gotten to where, we won the regular season title, and that was great. I mean, it really was. As a coach, that's hard. Like, you win 16 games, you don't lose this guy for 7 games, you got this guy sick, and you got all these, the travel and the variables of who you're playing back to back and when you're playing them, and right, all that stuff. It is so hard. And then you have March, where everything's ramped up, and we have such a great Summit League tournament. And I know I'm kind of going sideways here for you a little bit, but how great is this? Our Summit League tournament, 32 conferences in the country. Our league was number 7 in the country in attendance. I mean, so you have the BCS schools, the Pac-12, the Big Ten, the Big 12, the ACC, and the SEC. Those are 1 through 5. Big East is 6. Summit League is number 7. So what an amazing experience for our student athletes and all the student athletes in the Summit League to be able to experience that. But we're not even close to where we want to be. So to be viewed the hunted, I would say we're still the hunters.
You said you don't know, you're not even close to where you want to be. Where is that you want to be? You tabbed second in the Summit. You won it last year. Where do you want to be this year?
Well, we want to obviously repeat as the regular season, and we want to get to the NCAA tournament. But, you know, we talk about it some. We're big into the process. What's the like? How do you get there? It truly is. You know, it was a Joel Embiid. Is that his deal? The process? Am I right? Yeah. So, but it truly is about the process, and it truly is. If you're worried all the time about winning and losing, then I think sometimes you worry about winning and losing, instead of handling just what you need to do as a team on any given day and every day, and what we need to do individually to get to where we need to go. And every year that changes, right? You saw our team last year. We had, you know, how can I say it? We were almost like 3 or 4 different teams within the year last year. And that'll probably be the same this year. And you're going to see guys that had a certain role last year, they're going to have a different role this year, just because different team, different chemistry, and certain guys have, like I said earlier, I think a lot of our, basically all of our guys have gotten better, but certain guys have really amped it up a whole nother level. And so, so we want to be a program that every single year you can count on competing to have a chance to win the regular season championship and a chance to advance to the NCAA. And so when you have all these, when people talk about the Summit League, they got to talk about the Yotes. And that's where we want to go.
Coach, how is your team preparing? You say you want to get to that next level and you want people to think of you guys every time. How are you preparing going into this season?
Well, there's a lot of ways. You know, so first of all, when you schedule your non-conference, like that's part of preparation to be successful in January, February, and March. And so the Summit League has a lot of different styles of play. So when you set up your non-conference schedule, it's not an exact science, because you can want to play school X, but if they don't want to play you, you're not going to play them, right? And so you got to work through the myriad of playing a certain number of guarantee games where we go out and we, you know, bring in money for the university. Then you're scheduling a home and home, and then you're trying to schedule home and homes where guys aren't missing a ton of school, but if you do got to go to California, we're playing 2 games on a trip. So you want to play different styles of play. You want to play teams that get up and down. You want to play teams that just grind it out. You want to play teams that play, you know, maybe press or play a lot of zone or play. So you really do dig into the details of what is their style, how do they play. You know, Denver used to play the Princeton. They have all the Princeton offense. So we would try to schedule at least one team in the non-conference that played all Princeton, right? So you get a feel for that. So now when you come play Denver, it's not, you know, you're not speaking Chinese versus English, right? Like so a lot goes into that. So that's one way how you prepare. Certainly in practice, you know, we get 30 practices for 42 days leading up to the first game. So you're working on, it's a fine line. You got to be who you are. So you got to really fine tune what you're about, both you know, offense, defense, special teams, late game situations, and different change-ups that you may throw at teams. And then you got to prepare for everything that they might throw at you. So you're getting ready for a man-to-man, whether it's pressure and deny, whether they switch all screens, whether they double the post, whether they play 2-3 zone, 3-2 zone, 1-3-1 zone, whatever. So you have all that, and then you have the mental game. So, well, going back, then you watch film. A lot of film. It's our society today. How do people learn? They don't always believe the coach. They got to see it for themselves, right, on video. And they think they're doing one thing, and then they see it, and it's like, oh, wow, I had no idea. And so we had a really good one of those on Monday. And then it is about building your team, right? It's about team building. It's about helping guys develop as leaders and mentors. You know, last year we only had the one senior, and so we were so young. I'm not sure anybody ever thought about kind of totally helping the young guy, you know, because they were all young. And now this year we actually have, 9 upperclassmen. And so like a couple of our freshmen were struggling with some things early on, and you know, you meet with your players and they're like, gosh, the freshmen just don't, you know, what are you doing about it? Did you say anything to them? Like, are you helping them along the way? Are you, right? So you have that part, the big brother, little brother, you know, type of thing that way. So there's a lot of different things that go into it in terms of the preparation. The nice part is we do have a lot of veteran guys that have played in high pressure games and very meaningful games and experienced a lot of different things.
Any final questions for Coach?
A few words on playing USF in an exhibition game.
Thank you. You know, that's you know, last year was the first year, obviously, with the new facility where we could play exhibition games, and we're excited to play it. I think it's a great game for the state of South Dakota. I think it's great for them and our Sioux Falls, you know, alum to come back and watch us play. And you know, I know there's not the old storied tradition where, you know, when South Dakota was in the NCC, they were still NEI, I believe, right, back then. So you don't have the old, real storied, right, games. I'm sure they did play some, I would guess. But I think it's important. I think it's great for both communities, for both universities. Hopefully we'll get a great crowd for it. But I, you know, put a lot of thought into that. And if it's the right thing or not, and I asked Dave Williams what he thought, and right away he's like, I think it's a great idea. And so hopefully we'll get a fantastic crowd. I think it'll be good, like I said, for all parties involved. So that's obviously this Saturday. And then we have also tomorrow our Coyote Madness event, which is like the old school Midnight Madness. Obviously we're doing it at 7, but it'll be a fantastic event for both the men's and women's programs to see all the new faces, to see all the both rosters out there playing against each other, and then have some fun where they can see a dunk contest and the three-point shootout and pulling fans out, and the student, I think, has a chance to win $10,000 but to be able to interact with both the men's and women's basketball team.